took you long enough to get here, I thought I was going to be out alone all night. So, I was going through some photos recently and I sort of noticed that a lot of these shots aren't exactly usable. Some of them either being awkwardly composed or slightly blurry and things like that, maybe a bit out of focus. But, with that being said, as I looked through these, I realized that there's almost a beauty to the process of getting to the final shot that these are on the way towards. So, I thought it'd be kind of cool to make a video about that. So with that all being said, this is the in-betweens of photography. What do I mean when I say in-betweens? It's sort of a term that I think I made up in my own head at the very least, where it's a picture that isn't quite right. It might be slightly out of focus, or it might be slightly off center or blurry or whatever it may be, and it's sort of a picture that you'd overlook, and you know, it isn't as cool as this shot, so why would I even care, you know? Like, for example, we have this picture and this picture right here. You see how this one's slightly more in focus and this one isn't? That would be an in-between shot, the less out of focus one. Or the, I guess, more out of focus one, rather. Anyways, with that being said, I think that it would be interesting to sort of go through a little collection of photos that I sort of picked and put together to show you, I guess, what in-betweens are and the ones that I've taken. So, with that being said, let's get into the video. For real. We'll start off with a picture we've already seen before in a previous video. This carton of Costco milk seems like it would be just a one-off picture, right? But would you believe me if I said that I took this same photo 40 different times? This sort of thing happens a lot with me, where I have a visualized picture in mind, a very specific angle, and I find myself trying to get every other angle that wasn't even related to the first idea. It makes it where 2 or 3 photos turn into 40, or more sometimes. A similar but slightly different situation would be in action photography. In this particular area of photography, that perfect still is what you're after, where that player is shooting that three-pointer, or that bird is taking flight. More often than not, I find myself holding down my shutter for seconds at a time, hoping to get that perfect moment. This creates a lot of in-betweens, and it isn't uncommon for me to get hundreds of pictures of that same subject. A particular week comes to mind when I think about this sort of photography. I was volunteering as a photographer for the Arctic Winter Games and would spend several hours a day shooting different sports. There were days where I went home and uploaded 2,000 pictures of just badminton and left with about 20 or 30 really good shots that I wanted to send out. On an unrelated note, I did not send out a single picture to this organization. I had a bit of a hard time figuring out how to navigate their convoluted picture uploading site, which they made themselves. I don't know what they were thinking. So, with that being said, I decided these pictures are just mine now. The reason I bring all this up is because of the hockey games that I went to. This is my first time ever really watching hockey, and I was very excited to experience the game and get all these different pictures. I think there were at least 3 fights that day, and during one of them, a player smashed his stick into the ground so hard it sent the end of it straight into the air. Sadly, I only really caught 2 of the fights since my camera battery had died, but you can see with the shots that I did get that I took several just to get that one perfect moment. This encapsulates the whole idea of in-betweens entirely, showing that you need all these different not-so-great pictures to get to that one really great picture. I think that these pictures are commonly overlooked because, look at them, they're kind of just boring and they don't really have that wow factor that the perfect shot has. But without these pictures, you don't get that perfect picture. These lead you to that moment where you get that shot, and without them, you'd probably miss out on the picture entirely. Okay, why even talk about this at all? Was this idea born out of a sleep-deprived mental state where I just think, oh, this might be kind of funny? Possibly. Or is it even deeper than that? I think that there is a bit of a, lack of discussion about this. The photography influencers, YouTubers, whoever it may be that I do watch, they never really talk about this sort of thing, and I think that it's something that should really be gone over, because how do you pick that perfect shot? How do you decide, oh, what am I going to put out to the world, and what am I going to decide to polish up and, make all pretty? I know that usually they sort of go from, oh, here's the shot I already picked out, you don't really need to know about the behind the scenes, and here's how I changed it. And usually they do go over the particular edits, the presets, and things like that that they use to get their style of photo, but they never really talk about, or at least the ones that I've watched, maybe there's a guy that thought of the exact same thing I did. Hopefully not. I hope to be a bit original in this thought, but I don't really ever see anybody talk about, oh, look at these two pictures or videos even. Which one would you choose, left or right? Like, which slight change would make this shot more, intriguing? And it's sort of a novel idea to myself because I take so many pictures. I have to think through that every few minutes, really, when I'm going through my pictures. For example, when I go out and shoot with the fella I'm working for as of right now, I take thousands of pictures per session, and I have to go through meticulously to pick out which ones are the ones that I want to put out to him. And it's sort of a process, and I think that with that process there comes I guess beauty to the creation of it. I know that a lot of people don't really care about, oh, this is how I got to this point. They usually just care about the final product, especially nowadays where everything's so quick and very short attention span, I guess, based. You know how it is nowadays with whatever it may be. And I don't want to sound like a old man saying, oh yeah, kids these days. I'm literally the exact same way off camera. You know how it is. I'm still young. I'm 20. It's not all that hard to believe that, oh, I'm doing the same thing as well. But with that sort of being said, I think there is an inherent value to the process and the, I guess, long form discussion of it. So I think that we should continue on with the video. Okay, so I've talked about the mediocre shots that you sort of overlook, but what about the pictures that are just right on the edge of being perfect? And how do you even pick the perfect shot in the first place? I found for myself that there's sort of this unexplainable visceral feeling that I get when I see that perfect shot. It stops me in my tracks, and it stands out so much from the crowd of other pictures that I just can't help it but choose that one. I'd like to call this next section of the video the almost shots. The first set of pictures I'd like to look at are these shots of a pavilion I had seen on the way from Colorado to Seattle. My stepsister and I had made several stops along the way, sort of just stretch our legs and take in the scenery, and one of the stops just so happened to be right next to this pavilion. I'd wanted to get a picture from afar where the clouds sort of sat atop of the pavilion and the people under it made an interesting shape with the silhouette, and I landed on this one to be my favorite. Maybe it's because of the black and white, or maybe it's because there's an old man staring at me right at the very end of the line to the left. In my street photography, this is a very common thing to happen, where the subject sees me taking the photo, stares directly into the camera, and I get a really interesting shot where they are almost posing for the picture. For example, this fellow sitting on the bench, he saw me from afar, and I'm not sure if he knew that I was taking pictures of him. Maybe he thought I was taking pictures of something behind him, but whether it was that or the other case, it still added just a layer of interest, to me at least, where, oh, look, he's part of the picture now and he knows it, and I just think that is a very cool thing to do. The next trio of photos that I have are of this barn building that I had seen while we were driving on the highway. As you can see, it's a literal linear process from the very first shot where you can't see the barn at all and it almost looks as if it's a part of the overpass, to the middle where, oh, it's starting to sort of peek out, and to the final where you can literally see the barn under the bridge. And I just thought that the way that the sun was hiding behind the building and the way that it was lit up and almost silhouetted with the sun looked visually intriguing, especially with the road being lit by the sun the way it was, and you could even see a little bit of the convertible that we were driving. So overall, I just think it was a very good example of almost shots. And I think for this last set of photos, we'll bring a throwback to Alaska, where there was a set of stairs that was just sort of there. It wasn't connected to anything. I think it was removed from the side of a building, and it sort of was just laying down on the ground. And I thought it was so intriguing that I simply just had to go take a few pictures of it. So we have several different angles and one in color. And after I took that initial shot, I realized I think it would look a little bit better in monochrome. So I changed that setting. And then I thought, okay, this angle, well, it's interesting. It could be even cooler. So I switched it, and then we have an even more visually intriguing shot. And then, of course, I thought, okay, I should take a little bit of a self-portrait. And I took several, as you can see, I'm just sort of scrolling them through, several different shots of that, some of them being more goofy than others. And I ended up on this one where I'm looking down and I'm sort of walking up the stairs with the slant. And yeah, I just think that one worked out the most. As you guys can sort of see, it's getting quite dark out. Well, I guess probably not so much because I fixed my settings right before I recorded this, but it is certainly getting darker. The sun's going down, and I recorded several clips for this video, and I think that should bring us to the end of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I guess we'll do a little bit of a recap. There's some sort of bird right over there. Anyways, we'll do a bit of a recap on what we discussed. Me discuss, really, because you're just watching it, but you know, this is a two-way street. You watch it and I talk it, you know, it's kind of cool. So, one, in-betweens, just sort of how the sausage gets made sort of thing, where you get to see, I guess at the very least my process on how I get to my end product, whatever it may be, like a photo or a video, or, you know, I guess just, that could be sort of applied to anything, really. Like, there's in-betweens in life all over. You know, like you have times in between jobs, in between different living situations. There's like a really curious bird watching me. I don't know where it's at exactly. Oh, there it is right there. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. I apologize. I think that, I don't know what that is. I won't speculate on that. I don't want to be like one of those folks that pretend to have something. I'm not diagnosed with anything, but it would make sense if it's true. Transition. Okay, so in-betweens, got that covered. Secondly, we got almosts, you know, the pictures that have those few little minute differences that just don't make it that shot that I want. And I think I don't really want to make a in real life connection with that because I really don't want to. I'm sure that you guys could do it. I might think about it, put it in the comments later, but I don't know. I'm kind of tired. It's been a long day. Did a lot of writing for this video. Hopefully that comes through with the final product. I was very off script a lot of the time when I was sitting in my room recording because, you know, got the audio jitters, I suppose, where I can't get the dang paragraph out like I'm wanting to, so that's fine. It is what it is. I made it work, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next video, which will be pictures of the day. I think I said that last video, but this time it's real. It's going to be actual pictures of the day, or we just sort of chill out and look at some pictures together. So, see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you guys